Let's queer up trans rights. State medical examiner rules Nex Benedict's death was a suicide. The death of Nex Benedict, the 16-year-old student from Owasso High School, has been ruled a suicide by the medical examiner's office. Nex, who identified as transgender and used he and they pronouns, passed away on February 8th, just a day after a reported fight at school. His tragic death has become a focal point for LGBTQ+ activists, who argue that recent hateful legislation passed in Oklahoma has made schools less safe for queer and trans students like Nex. According to reports, Nex faced bullying at school due to his gender identity. Body camera footage released by police showed Nex lying in a hospital bed, recounting an altercation with fellow students. The Owasso Police Department stated on Facebook that they had indications suggesting Nex's death was a suicide, but they were waiting for the final results from the Oklahoma Medical Examiner's Office. After this new development, Margaret Coates, the superintendent of Owasso's public schools, acknowledged Nex's cause of death and urged students to seek counseling in case they are struggling with the news. On February 26th, students at Owasso High School staged a walkout to condemn a prevalent culture of unchecked bullying. Kane, one of the organizers who preferred to be identified by their first name only, highlighted the speculation surrounding Nex's tragic passing. Kane emphasized bullying as a primary factor contributing to the death. U.S. Department of Education is investigating Benedict's death and will likely challenge the medical examiner's conclusion. Well, for one thing, I don't trust the Oklahoma State Medical Examiner's Office as far as I can throw them. And secondly, Oklahoma is one of the hotbeds of anti-LGBTQ legislation. Their superintendent, Ryan Walters, thank you. Ryan Walters is openly Christian nationalist and literally call for persecution of LGBTQ students in their schools. He appointed Lips of TikTok, Shia, whatever his name.
Don't say her name.
We're Lips of TikTok. That woman has been appointed by the state to the state library board, despite the fact that she has never stepped foot in Oklahoma. She lives in California, which I don't know why someone didn't do something about that. But anyways, these people, these adults, literally encourage the bullying and persecution of LGBTQ youth in the states, in their schools. They encourage people to bully them, and I consider Nex's death a bullycide, in a term that's coined when extreme bullying leads to suicide. These students should be held accountable, these bullies should be held accountable, their parents should be held accountable, and those who encourage them on social media should also be held accountable.
Ryan Walters, his resting bitch face and his gay haircut, he needs to lose his job as Oklahoma Superintendent of Public Instruction, a position for which he has repeatedly proven to be completely unqualified.
Also, bear in mind that Oklahoma is also the very first state to spend taxpayer money to create an explicitly religious, and in this case only Christian evangelical, of course, public school.
This is where, even in a state like Oklahoma, where organizations like we have here in South Florida are so needed, because we're one generation away from all this craziness going away. If young people can be inspired by local organizations, the young people like James, they're inspired to make change, make a difference. They start running for council. They start getting positions in government that can mitigate this from happening, or at least we have a great voice in these different departments, whether it be the health department, whether it be the HR department and the police department, or wherever it is. I think that we've got to have our older generation of people like us that are fighting so hard for this to inspire our youth to take action, get involved, become part of government, become part of policy, because then we can wake up with an era of people like James leading us, and where we're integrated in all of the moving facets, so something like this can't get traction and be historical in nature.
Go ahead, sir.
I'm going to say, not to be a pessimist on the table, but I don't know if I necessarily believe that we're a generation away. And speaking from a Black perspective, like how we're still dealing with racism, right? Y'all's generation owes me and my generation, because why am I dealing with that shit that y'all should have solved? So I also have to push back on this notion that my generation is going to change stuff we will at our own time, at our own pace, because we have to, but we can't be relied upon, because I do believe you all have an obligation to get out there and be loud and fix this for us, to protect us from this trauma.
I think what he's trying to say is that with all the work that is being done that has already been paved years before, if it continues, your generation is set up for success to continue to grow and move us further.
I think the word is to empower this generation. We want to empower the next generation, because again, we're only one generation away from going way back to where we were in the 70s, and we're one generation away from maybe some really cool change. And I think it's the job of us in our 50s, 60s, have been around a little bit, to empower our youth, give you the tools, give you the encouragement, really, really help you feel excited about going out and doing something great, because it's going to be in your hands very soon.
Well, it wouldn't be so bad to go back to the 70s because activism was happening then. It's the 50s we need to be afraid of going back to,
Yes.
and that's exactly what the Heritage Foundation wants.
I just want to end this with a note that local elections matter, because every time we turn our head away and focus on national election, which by themselves is also very important. We're not saying that national elections are not important, but every time we stop paying attention to local races, things like school boards. I mean, this has happened before. This has happened in the 90s when it comes to teaching evolution. This is in the 2000s when it comes to No Child Left Behind. And now it's about LGBTQ issues and other discrimination-related issues. Every time when we stop paying attention, we become complacent. The conservatives sneak right in and staff the board full of Christian nationalists and flag raving crazies, and we have to fight it all over again. We cannot stop looking at the board at this point.
A lot of work